So I just quickly want to go through this article that oh my God, this dumb article in Bleacher Report saying who are the most overrated players at their position in the NFL, and of course, quarterback. On is Emmanuel, the Nigerian scam artist, Acho. This guy is going to sit up here and say that Justin Herbert's one of the highest, or excuse me, one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL. So let's go through this article real quick. So it just basically says Justin Herbert's the NFL's highest paid or third highest paid player in terms of average salary. Unlike most of his highly paid counterparts, he hasn't had much success in the playoffs. None actually. 4 seasons as a starter, he's had a middling 30-32 regular season record. Lost his only playoff game. He helped the Chargers get a 27-0 lead, only to be defeated 31-30 by the Jacksonville Jaguars in a very suspicious game. There was a whole heck of a lot like the game before it, almost like it was scripted to keep the NFL's golden boy from looking like a complete fool. But hey, that's just my speculation. Anyway, while Herbert has completed 66, or we'll just say 67% of his throws for 17,000 yards, 114 touchdowns, 42 interceptions, he only made one Pro Bowl, which he started as a rookie, and somehow didn't make the Pro Bowl in his second season when he threw for over 5,000 yards, but whatever. See, there is hope. Oh, it goes on to say basically his performance relieved both head coach Brandon Staley and general manager Tom Telesco of their respective duties. No, they relieved themselves. Brandon Staley's horrible defense and Tom Telesco's inability to build the roster with any sort of depth to compensate for all the injuries the Chargers always have. There's hope for a quick turnaround with Jim Harbaugh and Joe Ortiz taking over those vacated positions, respectively. It's unclear whether Herbert will be able to reach his immense potential and deliver sustained playoff success in LA. Whatever. Until that happens, Herbert will continue to be the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. So I started out with this simple chart showing which players rated highest in their compensation per year. Joe Burrow's first, Jared Goff is second, Herbert third, Lamar, Jalen, Kyler, Deshaun, Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Josh Allen. So rather than go through all the quarterbacks, we'll go through the ones that we know I feel are most respected. We don't know anything. That's what I feel, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. So let's take a look at my notes here. So Justin Herbert. So this first number that I have here is he's got the 26 rated supporting cast. And the supporting cast, according to Ian Hartitz, hopefully I said his name right, is based on PFF's ranking of the team's rushers, receivers, pass blocking, and run blocking grades. Everything except passing. And on his chart, it's over the past 5 seasons, but I've only used the past 4 seasons since Justin Herbert was in the league over the last 4 seasons. And for Jared Goff, since he moved on from the Rams and became the Lions quarterback in 2021, we'll just go from 2021 for him. So if you take a look at Justin's supporting cast is ranked number 26th since 2020. Joe Burrow, 21st since 2020. Jared Goff is 13th. Patrick Mahomes tied for 8th, along with Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. So all 3 of those quarterbacks tied for the 8th best supporting cast in the NFL over the last 4 years. And I find that hard to believe, but let me go back. Is that true? The Ravens? I would think that the Ravens, so we got the Ravens, okay. So the Ravens, if you take a look at them, last year they were ranked number 3, but yeah, okay, over the last, their rate, I don't know how, that couldn't possibly be right, actually. Let's see, 12 plus 3 plus 3 plus 12 divided by 4 is 8. Never mind, it's right. So so the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Philadelphia Eagles are all tied for 8th. If you really want to know the order, it's the Ravens. I think they're 7.5. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, 7.7, and Jalen Hurts, I think it's 8 or something like that. But if you round it, they're all tied for 8th. Josh Allen, his supporting cast is ranked number 11. So you see what's happened. Josh Allen barely loses over and over again to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson barely losing to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts barely losing to Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Joe Burrow actually beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs after they looked like they were going to get absolutely drilled. And they won a few games in a row over the Chiefs before I think they lost 1 year to the Chiefs. Jared Goff actually almost got his team to the Super Bowl. They got to the AFC Championship game, and then they lost, of course, to the team with the top supporting cast, the 49ers, in the championship game when it looks like just like Joe Burrow and the Bengals came back and won against Patrick Mahomes. Jared Goff looked like he was going to beat the 49ers, but he came back and lost. So I guess that's more like Patrick Mahomes. It's not like Joe Burrow. So we'll see what the Lions do. They look like they're on the upswing, and they're going to be one of the best teams in the league. So the supporting cast-wise, Justin Herbert has by far the worst supporting cast. The only other quarterback that has a below-average supporting cast on the list of the quarterbacks I chose to look at is Joe Burrow. And I think if we go back and we look on the list in total, only Kyler Murray, who has a 23-26 record, a losing record, has a supporting cast anywhere near as bad as Justin Herbert at 23rd in the league, as opposed to Justin Herbert's 26th in the league since 2020. So the only quarterback that's highly paid that has a supporting cast as bad as Herbert is Kyler Murray. If you want to take a quick look at the win-loss percentages here, Herbert has a 48% winning percentage. I'm only looking at the total amount of games played and how many of those games you won, not counting ties and stuff like that. That doesn't get you any points. You didn't win the game. So Justin Herbert's his record or winning percentage is 48%. Joe Burrow's 56%. So about 15% better than Justin Herbert, with a pretty bad supporting cast itself, 21st out of 32 instead of Herbert's 26th. Then you go to Jared Goff. Jared Goff has a 50% winning percentage, which is about 4% better than Justin Herbert. And then you have Patrick Mahomes with an incredible record of 50-15, 77% winning percentage. That's a 60% winning increase over Herbert since Herbert's been in the league. 60% more, wow. And then you got Lamar Jackson, 39-16, so his winning percentage is 71% as opposed to Patrick Mahomes, 77%. So he's up there with Patrick Mahomes. His winning percentage increase over Herbert is about 48%. And let's see, we got Jalen Hurts with a 67% winning percentage, which is up there with Lamar Jackson. That's about 40% more wins, or his winning percentage is 40% more than Justin Herbert. And then we also have Josh Allen here with a outstanding winning percentage of 73%, 52% higher winning percentage than Justin Herbert. So when you take a look at these giant winning percentage increases, take a look at the supporting cast ratings of these teams that have this huge jump in winning percentage over Herbert. You've got Josh Allen. His supporting cast is 11th. And then, like we said before, Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Patty Mahomes, tied for 8th. So these guys actually have the support of the players around them. Great running, great run blocking, great pass blocking. The receivers are doing the job. Herbert, we know what Herbert's had to deal with all these injuries, with Keenan Allen, Mike Williams always being out. The rushing attack just non-existent. Can't do a damn thing. Receivers dropping passes, even when they are healthy. I mean, it's just like they're just not supporting the team. And then if you take a quick look at the defense, well, I didn't really take a deep dive into the defense, but take a look at how many points per game Brandon Staley's defense has given up. And, you know, you have to think, in some of these instances, Brandon Staley's defense actually played very well if Brandon Staley wasn't doing all this crazy nonsense where he's trying to like have the defense like think on the fly and things like that. When Derwin James, Joey Bosa are injured, they just play straight up defense and they just let them play fast without thinking too much. And then all of a sudden, you get this defense that if you take a look, since week 13, the Chargers defense is ranked first on that season that they made the playoffs. But you know what happened? There was no Joey Bosa, no Derwin James. They were out, and the team was playing fast. So I can't really take it out. But if you take that into account, the defense, even though they had those, sometimes they had those brilliant games where they weren't trying to do too much. They still gave up an average of 24.9% or 24.9 points per game, which is absolutely horrendous. And the team only scored 24.4 points per game, which isn't too bad. That's a little bit under 25 points per game. And you take a look at Joe Burrow, his Bengals, and we know that Joe Burrow is a good quarterback with great weapons, at least at wide receiver. I don't know about that offensive line. His supporting cast isn't that great either. They scored 24.6 points per game. So basically, they scored about the same amount of points per game as the Chargers. Now you look, the Chargers, if you look on this chart, you got the Chargers defense giving up 24.9 points per game. The Bengals, 22.8. The Lions, 23.7, but they scored way more. They scored 27.2 with an outstanding cast around them, or pretty good. I shouldn't say outstanding, a pretty good supporting cast. Actually, they seemed like they were outstanding, but, the rankings really isn't that high. Let me see what the Lions were ranked last year, because they were ranked number 2 last year. That's why I'm sitting here thinking they have an outstanding cast. But take a look at this. So in 2020, the Lions, this is how they've gone. This is what you call some good ass coaching. So in 2020, they were ranked 18, and the next year, 2021, Jared Goff's first year, the supporting cast around the Lions. Let me actually pull up the Lions record too. Let's see, Lions record. Let me see if it says anything about the list of seasons. Yeah, we've got it right here. So we've got the Lions record, and we've got the Lions improvement in offensive staff. This doesn't even include the defense. So on offense, in 2020, they were ranked 18th. This is the year before Goff got there, right? Excuse me. Their coach was Matt Patricia. Okay. So in 2020, they were 5-11. Horrible. They had the 18th ranked staff. I don't know who the quarterback was. It's Matt Stafford, actually. And let's see, 2021, they went even more abysmal than the 5-11 record in 2020. They went 3-13. But take a look at the supporting cast they had around them. It was ranked 22nd. They went 3-13 with a 22nd ranked supporting cast with Jared Goff as the quarterback, right? So the next year, 2022, they go 9-8. They improved their record, but look at the supporting staff around Jared Goff. It went from 22nd to 9th. Then all of a sudden, they have a winning record of 9-8. They didn't make the playoffs, but they went 9-8. And then the next year, they have the second best supporting cast, which is why I was like, there's no way these guys didn't have a great supporting cast. They had the second best supporting cast around Jared Goff. Went 12-5. They lost So they in the wild card they barely beat the Rams. They beat the Buccaneers, and they really beat the. I don't know. I think it's more of that rigging crap going on. But anyway, they went. They lost to the 49ers 31-34 in a game where they looked like they were just dominating that game. And I think they wanted to keep those lines out of the Super Bowl. That's what I think. I've always said, I said this for years and years and years and years and years. There's three teams that the NFL just absolutely whoops ass on when it comes to refereeing and horrible calls. I don't know if there were horrible calls in that NFC Championship game because I didn't watch it. But looking at how they were winning and then they lost, something funny had to have gone on there. So the Lions, the Raiders, who I don't like, but I have to admit, when I was watching those games and writing those articles, I could tell you flat out the referees did the Raiders no favors. And they also don't do the Chargers any favors. So those three teams, it's not a shock when they lose in the playoffs or in ridiculous fashion because the NFL does these teams no favors. So I think that that's a great thing to look at when you look at the Lions and you see that these guys went from having a horrible or below average, I should say, supporting cast up to having one of the best supporting casts. Let's take a look at the Chargers, though. And I'm sorry I'm not actually screen recording. It probably would be easier for me if I was recording the screen because I could just show you what I was looking at. But let's take a look here. So different page, but it has the same information. So in 2020, okay, so 2020 with the Chargers. 2020, the Chargers had the 32nd ranked supporting cast around Justin Herbert. So they had a horrible offensive line, no rushing attack to speak of, and the receivers were not efficient. But they went 7-9 with the worst supporting cast in the NFL. 7-9 with the worst supporting cast in the NFL. The next year, under Brandon Staley, they improved their record from 7-9 to 9-8. So just like our friends the Lions, they went 9-8, but didn't make the playoffs. Now let's see with the Lions when they went 9-8, they had the number 9th ranked supporting staff around them, and the Chargers had 15. Okay, so the next year the Chargers. Something happened. I don't know how they got so bad, but all those injuries they had. I don't know how they got so bad. Those injuries were insane. So they dropped from being the 15th ranked supporting cast to the 28th, right? And somehow they still increased their winning up to 10-7, and looked like it was going to be 11-6, but they seemed to, we'll say they quote unquote blew that game. Just a quick interruption of the video. The reason why the team was able to improve to 10-7 that year is because Joey Bosa, Derwin James, they might not have been out all of those games, but they were out a bunch of games. They simplified the defense, and we're talking the year that they made the playoffs at 10-7. So they were absolutely whether they were like 6-6, I think. Had just lost to the Raiders, gave up a bunch of yards to the Raiders. And they simplified the defense and were actually able to completely stifle a bunch of teams in a row. So they stifled the Miami Dolphins, angering, what's his name, Mike, whatever his name is, of the coach of the Dolphins. They held the Dolphins to 219 yards, Tennessee Titans to 284, the Indianapolis Colts to 173, the Rams to 277, and then the Denver Broncos, they were absolutely destroying in the first half, or most of the first half. And then all of a sudden, they just stopped playing defense. And the Broncos were able to come back and win that game if you look at the box score. The box score in that, the Denver Broncos, I think it was 17-7, but the Chargers were completely dominating that game, and they just turned it off. And then the Denver Broncos were able to just score with ease for the rest of that game. And I had mentioned earlier that they did the exact same. It was the exact same thing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, almost like they were practicing a script. So I don't really like conspiracy theories and things like that. But when I used to I didn't clarify this. I used to be a writer for Bleacher Report, USA Today, Sports Fan Live, which was the blog for NFL.com back when I was doing it. So NFL.com, BleacherReport.com, USAToday.com, I was writing for all of those. And I decided to stop writing when I was watching these games. I kind of noticed that the NFL referees were controlling, they seemed to be, I can't say they were for a fact, but they seemed to be controlling those games with calls in at the right or wrong times, depending on what team you were going for. The thing that really got me to stop writing and do something else was when the NFL, the officials, they went on strike, and several of the teams that were known to be great football teams, all of a sudden, they couldn't win a game. And all the bad teams were winning. As soon as the referees came back, all of a sudden, all the good teams started winning again, and all the bad teams went back to their last place ways. So, they could just say, well, they got warmed up in the season. But that was after I had already determined that something fishy was going on, and then that happened, I kind of got out of writing. I was done. I might have written a little bit after that, but I was on the way out to do something else. So just wanted to put that little rant in the middle of this video as if it wasn't already too long. Sorry about that. To the Broncos to end the season. I don't know about that game. This game looked a little suspicious to me. And then they went on to lose in the wild card round to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And let's see, the Jacksonville Jaguars, what were there? Sorry if I'm jumping around too much, guys, but the Jacksonville Jaguars were pretty horrible, too. They had the 20th ranked rather than 28th of the Chargers. They had the 20th ranked supporting cast. And then last year, Herbert missed 4 games, and the Chargers were just awful. They had the 29th ranked supporting cast, and their record dropped all the way down to 5-12. So the supporting cast on offense seems to make a big difference, but also the defense as well. I think that saying that Justin Herbert is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the league is absolutely asinine. When you take a look at the supporting cast that he has around him, the defense giving up more points than any of these other top 10 quarterbacks defenses give up. His supporting cast is worse than any of these other quarterbacks. Yet the only quarterbacks that have anything even close to resembling Justin Herbert's horrible supporting cast is Jared Goff, and that's over a period of years. His winning percentage, even though his supporting cast is 13th as opposed to 26th, he's only won 4% more games than Herbert. And Joe Burrow with the 21st ranked supporting cast, which is absolutely abysmal on Cincinnati's part. They should be ashamed of themselves, like the Chargers should be ashamed of themselves. He's only won 15% more games than Justin Herbert in the regular season. So you can get an idea here that if you were to take away Justin Herbert from this team, if he's so overrated, how many games do you think Justin Herbert would win? Let's take a look at a bad team, like with a bad quarterback. Let's see. The Steelers, man, what a coaching job. Look, I didn't realize the Steelers were so bad when it comes to their supporting cast. They got some work to do, and they started to do it. Let's take a look at the Jaguars since they have a decent quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. So let's see. Since Trevor Lawrence got into the league, he came in the year after Herbert. So first of all, throw out his first season. He had that horrible coach. Man, his first season doesn't even count. I'm not even counting that. His first season was in 2021, but he had that horrible coach. I forget it. I don't even remember what his name was. Some Urban Meyer or something. That guy was terrible, so he doesn't count. So we'll just take a look at his 2022 and 2023 record. So I have to tell you that with Lawrence having to put up with a pretty damn mediocre staff around him, he had like the 20th ranked supporting cast and the 30th ranked supporting cast in 22 and 23 respectively, and went 9-8 in both seasons. At least the team did. He's a decent quarterback. But, you keep hearing about how this guy doesn't deserve a contract and things like that, but he has no help around him, but he doesn't deserve a contract, and you haven't had a losing season since you got rid of Urban Meyer. Absolutely ridiculous. The guy does deserve to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, because if you didn't have him, you remember what the Jaguars were without this guy. They're doing things like 1-15, 6-10, 5-11, 3-13, 5-11, 3-13, 4-12, 2-14, 5-11, 8-8, 7-9. They had one 10-6 record in there. They lost the conference championship. And once again, one of those weird games where they were up and they were about to go to the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden, everything goes wrong at the last second because of Brady magic. Okay. But yeah, you gotta look at the supporting cast. I mean, if you don't have the supporting cast around you, I don't care how good of a quarterback you are, you're not going to be able to compete with no Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. You can't compete with Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. You're not going to be able to compete with Jalen Hurts and Doug Peterson. I think is that the coach of the? I might have just made a fool out of myself saying that. Let's see who the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles are. Thought it was Doug Peterson. It's probably not. Let's see. No, that was a long time ago. It was Nick Sirianni. That's right. I knew that. So, yeah, I'll tell you guys later. I just wanted to rant a little bit about that article and how stupid it was. And if I made any mistakes, feel free to correct me. I'm down for that. I'll talk to you guys later.